All right, good evening. It's 7 o'clock sharp. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll call the meeting to order. This is the Board of Adjustments meeting for Wednesday, February 5th. It is again 7 o'clock. So right off the bat, we have a recently added agenda piece from the last meetings to a citizens input. So we are now going to put that out there before we leave it. At this time, 3-minute comments will be taken from the audience on any topic. To address the board, please submit a fully completed request card to the Secretary of the Board of Adjustment prior to the beginning of the citizens input portion of the meeting. No action can be taken by the board during citizens input. Do I have any cards? All right, that being said, next item on is the consider the approval of the minutes of the Board of Adjustment meeting on November 20th, 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. All right, let's vote. All right, we'll pass it. All right, moving on. Under Section 4A, we will conduct a public hearing and take action on a request by Steve Goldberg, Cogent, is that how you say it? Realty Advisors LLC for variances to Section 77-401 and 77-402 of the Rowlett Development Code to reduce the minimum lot depth, the minimum rear setback, and the minimum railroad buffer setback on property zone planned development district for single-family residential use. The 0.70 acre site is located east of College Park Drive and south of the Dart Line and situated approximately 187 feet west of the intersection of Cheeser Road and Stamford Street in the city of Rowlett, Dallas County, Texas. The city first.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, board members.
The one on the left and right.
It's got a moment. I'm trying to do it. So please stand by for technical adjustments. It's too very much.
That's it. Yeah, that's speaker one.
Push the podium one. It was working all okay.
Yeah, I came over here.
What did you do? It's different.
That's what
Ah. All right.
it is. Actually.
It was a moment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
So as you mentioned beforehand, this is a request for variances from the minimum lot depth of 110 feet to 95 feet, and the minimum rear setback from 20 feet to 15 feet, and the minimum railroad buffer setback from 100 feet to 15 feet on property zone planned development for single-family use. And if you can, to the screen, you can see here is the property, the subject property that we're discussing this evening. In this red here, that's the request is for. The 0.7 acre tract of land is undeveloped. It's irregularly shaped, it's lot, and it's already in a developed College Park addition. The subject property has about 150 feet of frontage along College Park, which is right there, and approximately about 498 feet along the Dart Railroad to the rear of the property. The property is adjacent to other single-family zonings, which to the north and south, they're all the planned development of that same PD. And to the west, a single-family of another planned development to the north called the Vinelands. And then to the east, which is to the rear of the property, is the planned development again, and also also the dark line. In this PD, the property was designated as park. However, it's been privately owned and has not been utilized as park. The owner wishes to develop the property to subdivide it to create 2 lots of record, but it's a irregular shaped lot, so they're not able to develop the land without obtaining variances. In the PD, it stipulates that the subject property has to be in accordance with the approved site plan and the specific standards within the PD as it relates to the minimum lot size, minimum lot width, and side yard. So some of those items are 60-foot minimum lot width at building line, 6-foot minimum side yard, and 7,000 square foot lot area, and your minimum dwelling unit size, 1,400 square feet. Now, the plan development does fail to, fall silent to provide information on the minimum rear setbacks and lot depth. So therefore, then we have to refer to the RDC or the governing code that was set in place at that time. So your first request that we have here is a variance from section 77401, table 4.1-1, and it's to reduce the minimum lot depth from the 110 feet to 95 feet. The lot is irregular and has about 139-foot depth along the western boundary, and the interior lot line is approximately 65 feet. So with this, the applicant is proposing an average lot depth, which is a minimum 95 feet. With the second request of this variance, we also are looking again at a variance from the table 4.1-1, and it's for the minimum rear setback from 20 feet to 15 feet. And the request for this 15-foot setback would allow for the structures to be aligned with the existing buildings that are already set in place there. The third request for the variance is from section 77402A.3.9, and this is to reduce the minimum railroad buffer setback from 100 feet to 15 feet. So with this buffer here, it requires that from the main building line, there be a 100-foot setback from the railroad right-of-way. With infilling in this lot with these 2 lots, there will be at least 20 feet already from the rear property line to the right-of-way. So with this, we're requesting a 15-foot, which is similar to the adjacent homes in that area. Some have, with the vineyards, they have requested the waiver of that 15-foot setback. So with this applicant is also requesting that this setback be reduced as well. So with these existing conditions beyond his proposed standards, you will see here at this map the difference between that you would have. So with the minimum lot depth, you have 110 feet. He's proposing 95 feet average, and there will be a distance of 15 feet. The minimum rear setback is 20 feet. He's proposing 15 feet, and it's a difference of 5 feet. And for the railroad buffer, it's 100 feet setback to the building. He's requesting 15 feet, and then he proposes to put a wood fence and vertical landscaping along the edge of the right-of-way. So then this would be a 95-foot difference.
85 feet. 85-foot difference.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. So with this, we sent out notices on January 21st, and we sent it to the 200-foot area and the 500-foot area, and we received no opposition or in favor back. So the recommendation is approval of the variances to reduce the minimum lot depth from 110 feet to 85 feet, a minimum rear setback from 20 feet to 15 feet, and 100 feet railroad setback to 15 feet. So excuse me for the first part, it's from 100 feet to 95 feet. So this concludes my presentation. The applicant is here to answer any questions that you have, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have as well.
Any questions for us? No questions?
I do have one. So we're putting 2 houses basically here, these 2 lots. On the one towards the bottom right side of the drawing, the triangle has a notch in it. I can see access for a driveway for a house, but the top triangle.
The top piece here.
Yeah, where's the driveway gonna be access?
So there will be no because this parcel right here, this portion of the property does not have access, does not have frontage on the road. So it requires when you're developing that you need to have at least 35 feet of frontage on the road. So you would only be able to put two in here, that would have two homes within this area, so they would be located right.
There's no home for the top piece then?
No, there will be no homes built. There's no access to the property.
That was my question.
So what happens to that remaining piece? Does that just remain undeveloped, or does that get blended in with
It would
the
be-
lot in the middle?
It would be, from discussions with the applicant, it would be provided, sold to the individual behind, and they would be able to use it as their backyard area. And I'll allow the applicant to elaborate on that for you.
Thank you. And if I could step up, if you would please give us your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Steve Goldberg. My address is 7117 Stephanie Drive in Dallas. And, if I could just make a quick statement. First of all, I appreciate you guys coming together here to consider our variance request. I don't have much to add to what Tara already laid out. But I think it's important to emphasize that the request is being made so that we can use the land in a manner that's compatible with other houses in the immediate area. And again, the problem that we're facing has to do with the physical features of the property that preclude it from being developed in accordance with all of the applicable development standards. Other than the lot depth, the rear building setback, and the railroad buffer, we fully intend to comply with all other aspects of the zoning ordinance. We've tried to respect the requirements of the development code as best we could and minimize the variances that we're requesting. But again, given the physical limitations of the property, I believe that the variances that we're requesting are very reasonable. And the issuance of the variances would result in development of houses that would not be out of character in comparison to other houses in the immediate area. Without relief or variances from the development standards identified, this land is not usable. It's not developable, especially with that railroad buffer. The railroad buffer basically engulfs the entire property. So I think this basically goes directly to the spirit of granting variance, which is to provide relief from the requirements that prohibit, allowed use of the land. As suggested, we're only talking about putting houses there, basically at the corner there on College Park. The top piece of the land, we're already in discussion, and we have an agreement worked out with the landowner. It would be the second undeveloped site that you see there. He's requesting purchasing that property for us as an addition to his property in the vineyard. So we would basically just demarc that property, just going straight up the side property line there up to the rear property line. So we're basically just separate from what we're intending to do.
Okay. Just a quick question, in your mind, which one of these properties was one to buy that land?
Sorry?
Which one is looking to buy that piece of land up there?
So if you look on the map there, I believe it's the second undeveloped site.
On towards the top part of it?
No, the second one.
No.
Yeah, that one there.
So he's gonna have a backyard that goes behind the guy next to his lot? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Basically.
We initially, when we've been working on this property for quite some time, we initially talked to the developer of the vineyards, the land developer of the vineyards, to see if he wanted our property. He was agreeable to it, but there had already been a person that had purchased that lot that we just noted. So we approached both of them. We approached the developer and that homeowner, and he says, well, I want the whole thing. So we basically allowed him to do that. I guess we could talk to the other landowner to see if they're interested in taking the part behind their property, but their backyard's already fenced in or whatnot. So
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, as far as the subdivision of the property, that we would handle through the planning process, sale and subdivision, whoever purchased that property, they couldn't develop it currently, under its current configuration. They would have to amend the PD in order for development to occur there, so it's really just kind of extra yard space. Again, that's kind of not part of this part of what's being requested or considered, so really it's the railroad buffers is most likely the biggest kind of hurdle that we've been dealing with, because obviously that makes the lot undevelopable, and really it's about the setbacks as well because of the irregular shape of the lot. Now the lot itself, when speaking to legal, the lot itself currently is conforming, it's legal, it's a legal lot. But once you subdivide it, that's where it gets a little tricky as far as meeting lot depths and sizes that are typical in that neighborhood. The other thing to note is that obviously that railroad setback wasn't in place when everything built out in that area, and so it would have an impact on a lot of those houses in that area as well, that 100-foot setback. So that's just something to keep in mind, that the neighborhood built out, the PD was designed not having that 100-foot setback in mind. So that's just kind of more context for you. Yes?
So as I read it, when you acquired the property originally, that 100-foot setback was not a requirement. That was, somebody came home with the city at a later time.
Well, when it was originally developed and subdivided, the 100-foot requirement wasn't in place. As far as our records go back, and we look at DCAD for ownership and things like that, as far back as we can tell, it's been privately owned and never utilized as a park. So at this point, the property owner now has just been owning this vacant piece of land and maintaining it. And for him to develop the property, again, it would require some variances.
I'd also like to add that there's no mechanism for that land to be owned and utilized as a park. I mean, there's no homeowners association that could maintain the park. So I guess it's demarked as a park, but it can't be used as a park unless there's somebody that's going to maintain it.
Yeah, and in our discussions with legal as well, we went and discussed, okay, it's identified on the PD as a park, but as far as the base zoning is concerned, it's still able to be used as a residential lot. And so therefore it's a legal lot, it's just it's never been utilized, never been developed as a park, and again, there's no HOA to maintain or develop it. So yes.
For our audience, to be clear, when you say park, this is like an HOA park, this is not a city of Rowlett
That's correct.
parkland.
That's correct.
Just to be clear for anybody listening in the audience.
The other question I would have, really deals in the railroad. I guess there's really, the buffer that's set there, I'm sure there's for a reason. Is there something that was done to approach them about the issue, or was it no need to go say, we need to get permission from the railroad to make that buffer change?
Right, no, the buffer change wasn't a result of the railroad, it was more of a result of a city council ordinance to ensure there was enough separation between the railroad and houses. And so, we have remnant pieces of property that's undeveloped along the railroad that, majority of it developed out, and you can kind of see it here without that in place. So, I think it was more of a proactive, let's keep people away from the railroad as much as possible to mitigate any sound or noise complaints and things like that. But as far as we could tell, there was really not a lot of intent built into that requirement. So, we don't know, but as far as the railroad itself, they didn't initiate that setback. It was the city initiated.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Goldberg? Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak on behalf of the applicant? Hearing none, of course, this is a public hearing, so we'd like to open it up to the public. If there's anybody who would like to come up and speak with regards to the request, do so at this time? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and move right back into our folks. Do you have any other thoughts or questions for the city?
No, I think in the spirit of the scope of what a Board of Adjustments is tasked to do, you know, we look specifically at lots with irregular settings and evaluate the considerations of the city standards, and certainly listen to staff recommendations and rely heavily on their opinions, and obviously the concerns of the developers as well as the community. So I think we're on the right track. I don't see any problem with moving forward on this one.
All right. That being said, if nothing else, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion
Make a motion
to approve.
to approve. Do this as all three? Just one. Because there's three requests, it's just really one overall request, right? And those three parts to it.
His motion was to approve it as.
I would approve all three.
Right. As written.
As written.
What's the, hit the button?
I move to approve all three requests for the changes to the setbacks.
I'll second that motion. And a second. Any discussion? Did you vote?
And it's not one you
No. You want to do it by hand? Guess we'll do it by hand. All in favor? There's nobody against it, so the motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you all. All that being said, I have nothing else on the agenda. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.